Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 17 of the Cincinnati Pod. I'm your host, Ryan Townsend. Thanks again for joining me today as we look to recap the Bengals and Dolphins game from yesterday. Tough game. Tough game to watch. Tough time to be a fan. There's not really a whole lot to get into besides a couple key points I have for today. I mean, overall yesterday, it was just 19-7 loss to the Dolphins. It was a bad game. Bad game, terrible game to watch. I mean, besides the one offensive play we had that went for a touchdown, offense got nothing going yesterday, had a total of 196 yards. Zac Taylor looks to me like he relies on Joe Burrow, which I'll get into here in a little bit. Thought the defense played well yesterday. You know, they had a good momentum swing here and there, recovering a fumble here, close plays on some interceptions here that we could have had. The red zone defense I thought looked good yesterday. Holding them to 4 field goals yesterday. Only 1 touchdown, which was in the second half. Had the 7-6 lead at halftime, and then the offense in the second half just couldn't get anything going. I believe with the sack yardage yesterday, I'm almost positive we had negative offensive yards in the second half. That's brutal. That's not something you can do. Whether your star quarterback is out, whether you're playing a third string, no matter who's on the field, you cannot have a negative yardage half for your offense in the National Football League. That's unacceptable to me. And that brings me into my 3 takeaways from yesterday's game. We're not going to talk much into the logistics of everything and the stats and who looked good yesterday. Because I just thought overall, besides the defense, how they played yesterday, we got guys like Jesse Bates and Von Bell flying around. But for the most part yesterday, I'm just going to get into 3 key takeaways from what I saw yesterday and what I see going forward for this team. So, number 1 we're going to get into here. Joe Burrow is the team. And here's what I mean by that. I feel like for the first 10 weeks of the season, well, I'll go 9.5 because he was injured in that Washington game. For the first 9.5 weeks of the season, I think Joe Burrow really, how do I want to say this? Really covered up how bad Zac Taylor's offense was. Just because of how good Joe Burrow is as a quarterback already as a rookie. I mean, you can see it right now with Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley in the game. This offense looks terrible. Last week against the Giants, 155 total yards. This week against the Miami Dolphins, 196 total yards. That's under 200 yards of offense in back-to-back games. One of them against a team I thought we should have beaten, the New York Giants, but now they're proving a lot of people wrong. Big win yesterday against Seattle. Now they're sitting at 5-7. I mean, we played those guys close. Miami in the first half, they didn't look as good as I thought they were going to. They ended up coming out in the second half and playing well. But Joe Burrow is this team, and I think he masks everything that Zac Taylor is missing in a play caller and that is missing in this offense. I really feel that with the Zac Taylor hire, which I'll get into more of that later, that he's still going through some kinks right now as a head coach. The inexperience is getting him right now. And I think he's, at one point or another, I think he's still trying to rely on Joe Burrow. I think he's still in the mindset that, I need Joe Burrow for this offense to succeed, which I'm seeing a lot of, because if I'm telling you right now, if Joe Burrow was on the field against the Giants, we beat the Giants. Okay, I'm confident in saying that. If Joe Burrow was on the field against the Dolphins yesterday, I think it's a nail-biter game. But without Joe Burrow at quarterback, I really think that this offense is not as good as a lot of people think. We were talking about after the Tennessee game, the dominating performance there. We were talking about, the Browns were putting up 34 points back-to-back games, we're putting up the points, but I just think that without Joe Burrow in this offense doesn't do anything. And I think we're seeing that in these last 2 weeks, and I think we're going to continue to see that. Next week coming up with the Cowboys, and then we've got the Steelers, I believe, and then we've got the Texans, and then we've got the Ravens. We're going to see this offense might not put up 200 yards again the rest of the season, but the big thing I want you guys to understand, and I've talked about it before, Joe Burrow's the team, and we've got our quarterback. That's all I care about. Okay, we have the quarterback in Joe Burrow, but we're seeing these last couple weeks that he's covering up a lot of the miscues and the holes in this Zac Taylor offense. Second point I want to get to from yesterday, it's really a lot of things. The fights, the bad officiating, and I'm going to defend Mike Thomas. So first we'll get into the fights a little bit. So yesterday, Brandon Allen overthrows the ball out of bounds to Tyler Boyd. And Xavier Howard pushes him late a little bit. Tyler Boyd gets up in his face. Xavier Howard throws a swing. Tyler Boyd tried to swing, didn't connect. We get a penalty on Boyd, 15 yards back. They don't get a penalty, but somehow both Howard and Boyd are ejected. I don't understand that. And here's what I'm saying. So, Xavier Howard threw the punch. He threw a punch first. Tyler Boyd tried to, he probably shouldn't have, but he tried to. He didn't connect. How are you going to give Tyler Boyd a personal foul penalty with an ejection, but you're not going to give Xavier Howard a personal foul penalty with an ejection? You're just going to eject him. Because what happens there is we get the 15-yard penalty with the Tyler Boyd ejection. The one player who scored for us on offense, the ejection, he's gone. And with the 15-yard penalty, we push Randy Bullock back 15 yards, who he hasn't been reliable a lot this year, and we miss a 53-yard field goal. If those penalties are offsetting, I'm not going to sit here and say Randy Bullock makes his field goal, but I'm going to sit here and tell you that a 38-yard field goal is a lot easier than a 53-yard field goal if we have offsetting penalties. That's something I just didn't understand yesterday, and I don't know. I think Gene Steratore said it on CBS yesterday as well. He was saying, I don't understand how Xavier Howard is not getting a 15-yard penalty as well. I mean, if Boyd's going to get a 15-yard penalty for swinging and missing, how is Xavier Howard not going to get a 15-yard penalty for connecting? He started the whole thing, and he's the one connecting with a punch, but they're just going to eject both of them and give only Boyd a penalty. I didn't get that. Next, we'll get into the bad officiating, which ties along to point number 2 here. I think at one point yesterday, I really think with the fights that happened, which we'll get into with the second fight here in a second, they sort of lost control of the game. Now, I'm not blaming the officials for the loss. Okay, the Bengals played terrible yesterday. They played bad. But when we get into it, the way they were dishing out the penalties and what they were calling, that huge skirmish on the field after the Mike Thomas's second hit, the huge skirmish after that. Like, you saw right there, it took them 10 minutes to figure out what happened. I mean, Devontae Parker's coming out of nowhere and just throwing haymakers. I think he threw like 6 or 7 haymakers. He actually knocked out one of our coaches. I think it was the director of rehab or something. Jay Morrison was talking about yesterday on Hear That Podcast Growling, or the walkout version of it. And you can see him. He's laying on the floor. Like, he's on the ground, like flat on the ground after Devontae Parker hit him in the back of the head. So I think with the officiating yesterday and the way they called the game, I think they sort of lost control. They let it get out of hand until that fourth quarter skirmish. I mean, they were watching, and all of a sudden the announcers come on. And they're like, oh, we got to fight. We got to brawl on the field. And that's after the Mike Thomas hit. And I just wasn't impressed yesterday with the officiating at all. I mean, going back to the Boyd, how are we not offsetting penalties there? Even on the ejections with Devontae Parker and Hollins got ejected, and then Sean Williams got ejected, we still got more penalties than them. Like, it pushed us back even more, and then we had to punt again after the Mike Thomas hit. And then we've got Brian Flores coming on to defend his guys, and then I just feel like the officiating yesterday lost control a little bit, and they could have held that back a little bit. But I mean, at one point or another, you guys you have to be better. The officiating has to be better a little bit. I don't like, blaming the officials, because I'm not going to sit here and say the officiating cost us a game. It didn't. I'm going to say that right now. It didn't cost us a game. But what I will say is they lost control of the game a little bit, and I just think they have to handle the situations that they had a little bit better. I mean, there was a ref in front of the Tyler Boyd and Xavier Howard situation. How are you going to sit here and tell me that Xavier Howard's not getting a foul? It's just point blank. That's how it is. But we'll move on from that as I digress. I want to get into Mike Thomas from yesterday. I find this important because in the Vontaze Burfict era, many of you Bengals fans, in the Vontaze Burfict era, he was known for his dirty hits. And I'm not going to sit here and say Vontaze Burfict didn't have dirty hits because he had plenty of dirty hits. I sat there and watched every game, man. He had plenty of dirty hits. But I'm going to sit here and tell you right now that Mike Thomas yesterday did not play dirty. And I'm going to defend him because I think in today's game, and I'm at fault for this a little bit just because of the hits I've seen Joe Burrow take. I've said some of these hits against Joe Burrow should have been called, like, that's unnecessary, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm a little at fault for this, and I've learned to, go away from it and say, you're not going to get every call. Joe Burrow's going to get hit from time to time. He's a rookie. He's got to settle in, etc. But we're going to bring it to the Mike Thomas point here a little bit. Mike Thomas had 2 controversial hits yesterday. Okay, you're facing Jakeem Grant, one of the best returners in the NFL, according to Zac Taylor. Okay, as a gunner in the NFL, if you know someone's a good returner and they're not going to fair catch, you are hawking them. You are going right after them and trying to make that tackle and not let them get yards. That's exactly what Mike Thomas did in the first play yesterday. Mike Thomas timed it up perfectly. It was great special teams play. As soon as Jakeem had possession of the ball, he went in there and laid the wood. We caused a fumble. We could have got it. I don't think there was a guy close enough around it. Dolphins pick it up. They get some yards. And Mike Thomas gets called for unnecessary roughness. That call yesterday was awful. And here's why. People are saying that, that hit doesn't belong in the game. Mike Tirico and Chris Sims on Football Night in America last night said, he led with his head. He led with his head. That hit doesn't belong in football. He shouldn't be playing football, all this stuff. Guys, Jakeem Grant is 5'6". He's 5'6". What do you expect Mike Thomas to do? Mike Thomas leaned as far down as he could yesterday to try and make a hit on the ball, and he did. What else do you expect Mike Thomas to do? If Mike Thomas goes any higher, it's helmet to helmet easily. He can't go higher. He's 5'6". Did he lead with the helmet a little bit? Yes. Did he lead more with the shoulder? I thought so. But he's 5'6". What do you expect the guy to do? It's just like in week 1 when Keenan Allen caught that out route and Jesse Bates is coming from the safety position to make a play to stop the first down. Keenan Allen led with his head and took half of his body weight. Jesse Bates is hitting low. Where do you expect Jesse Bates to put his head or his shoulder? There's no way to avoid that contact. So I think the first Mike Thomas hit yesterday, people are blowing that out of proportion. Okay, he made a great play. It wasn't dirty. You can't expect Mike Thomas to do anything else. Jakeem Grant is 5'6". Okay, he's got to go low, and he's got to. Did he intentionally mean to lead with his head? Absolutely not. He's just trying to get his body weight low, his gravity low, and he's just trying to make a play. He made a great play. It was a BS, unnecessary roughness call. Second hit yesterday, Mike Thomas is thinking again, hey, I need to make a play on the ball here. I need to make another play. And I'm just going to sit here and say that it was a little reckless, but at the same time, I don't think it was too dirty. Now, I can see where Dolphins fans and everyone is like, oh, he hit him early. Did he hit him early? Absolutely. Absolutely. He mistimed it, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say he shouldn't have chopped his feet a little bit, should have sat back and waited for the ball. I mean, the first one he timed up perfectly. The second one, he was off. But you guys just have to understand the NFL, these dudes play aggressive. Like I said before, Jakeem Grant is not fair catching a football. Mike Thomas knows that, and Mike Thomas just wants to go make a play. Was he early? Absolutely. Was it a little reckless? Absolutely. But I'm not going to sit here and call Mike Thomas dirty for the hit he gave yesterday in the first one or the second one. I'm not going to sit here and say that. Point blank, period. It's football. He's trying to make plays. You guys got to hop off of him. All right? That's what I'm going to say right there on that point because I've seen a lot of dirty hits in Cincinnati. Like I said, I've been with the Burfict show. You guys got to give a guy who's trying to make a play for his team a break a little bit. Second hit, probably shouldn't have happened. First hit, great play. You guys got to give him a little break. Let these guys play football. I'll digress from that. Just give me my last point here. It's a big one. Third point of the day from the game yesterday. Zac Taylor's not the guy in Cincinnati. I've tried to stick up for him. I've tried to believe in him. I want to believe in him. I want to see this offense succeed. I don't think he is the right guy in Cincinnati. Now, that being said, I'm not sure that he will be gone next year because from what I know, he's under contract for 2 more years. We all know, Bengals fans, Mike Brown is cheap. And there is a possibility that Mike Brown does not want to pay 2 coaches at the same time in Cincinnati. If that's the case, and Zac Taylor's in Cincinnati for 1 more year, he's got to make some huge changes. Lou Anarumo's got to go. Jim Turner's got to go. And Zac Taylor's got to be at least 8-8 next year. You got to win half your games next year with Joe Burrow or more to keep your job in Cincinnati if you're here for a 3rd year. If he's not here for a 3rd year, I'm okay with it. But I also think if we don't get him for a 3rd year, you have to make sure you get the absolute right guy that you can get in Cincinnati. I mean, go try and get Eric Bieniemy. Go get Robert Saleh from the 49ers. Go get DeBall from Buffalo. I mean, Arthur Smith from the Titans. Those OCs and those offensive minds right there, except for Saleh, he's obviously a defensive guy, but I think he could help change the culture in Cincinnati with his aggressive mentality and his mindset. But those 3 OCs I just named right there, if you can go get those guys and pair them with Joe Burrow, I think it helps. Because I think a couple of those guys are really ready to be head coaches. But that's the thing I'm going to say with exiting Zac Taylor after year 2. You have to make sure you get the right guy. If you don't get the right guy, then you just wasted another hire in Cincinnati. Like, you have to make sure you get the right guy. But back to the main point here, I don't think Zac Taylor has done enough to show me that he can be a head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. I really think that a lot of people were high on the McVay. You know, we need to get a Sean McVay, a guy like Sean McVay. They just came off the Super Bowl. You know, you have to go get the next McVay. And we thought Zac Taylor was the next McVay, but it turns out Zac Taylor was not the next McVay. From what I've seen so far, I think he's still young. Not saying he can't be a good head coach in the future, but he's still young. And I think he needs just a little bit more experience for him to really see what he can do. Because so far, it hasn't worked out. And, you know, I hate to say that because I know these guys, you know, this is their livelihood. They have jobs. But for right now, man, I can't say that I believe in Zac Taylor. And I can't firmly tell you guys he's the guy in Cincinnati. So I think it's going to be interesting to see these last 4 games to see what he's made of. I mean, if he doesn't win another game, I think he's got to go easily. But, I mean, if he wins a couple more games, the front office is probably going to sit here and say, hey, like, I think he's got to stay, you know, give him another year. But from my perspective, guys, I don't think Zac Taylor's the guy. I know a lot of you have been saying it, but Zac Taylor's not the guy. So we're going to see how that goes throughout the next couple games and what the front office decides to do. But we'll see. I'm really just at a loss for words because in the sense that, you know, I think a lot of us are starting to see that Marvin wasn't really the issue. Was his time in Cincinnati up? Absolutely. But I think a lot of us are starting to see that even with a new coach, like, there's still some outlying culture issues. And when we saw it yesterday, he lost complete control of his team when that brawl started happening. But I think it's interesting to see how it all unfolds. And these last 4 games are going to be huge to see what happens in Cincinnati. But from my perspective right now, I don't think Zac Taylor's the guy. And hopefully we can get someone in there that's going to help this team in the future, help Joe Burrow grow in the future. But, I mean, I'm trying to stay positive, and we'll see where it goes from there. But those are the 3 key takeaways I have from yesterday's game. Not really a whole lot to digest. Joe Burrow's a team, as we know. You know, the fights, the officiating, Mike Thomas, all that. And then Zac Taylor not being the guy in Cincy. So, but next week we play the Cowboys. I'll get an article out sometime this week. Tune into the game on Sunday. Hopefully we can get a win in Cincinnati. Andy Dalton's homecoming. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. But we'll see. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate all the support as always. Tune in for more content this week, and we'll see you guys soon. Who day?